Well, hey everybody, I hope you had a great Christmas and I'm so glad you chose to join us today. Before we get started, I want to make just a couple quick announcements and a couple reminders before the year is up. Because today is December 31st, there is still time to participate in our year-end Kingdom Builders offering. As you've heard me say over the last few weeks, we don't have a dollar amount goal for this initiative, but we do have a participation goal, and our participation goal is 100%. I would love to see every single one of us give something to what God is going to do at Heartland in 2024. So if you haven't done so yet, would you take just a couple minutes right now or today before the year is up to make some sort of gift on our website, weareheartland.us. All right, well, next Sunday, in fact, we start a new workshop called Money Talks, which promises to be incredibly practical and very helpful. So if you're interested in that, head to the website or our Heartland Church app to get signed up. And then also next Sunday, we kick off a very, very special new series. It's a series that I feel like God has laid on my heart that I've been praying through for the last couple of months. And so I hope you'll join us back in person next Sunday as we launch that new series at our service times of 8:30, 10, and 11:30 in the morning. All right, well, today Ashley McNary is going to share a word with us. But before she does, Brent and the band are going to lead us in one song of worship.
Sing through the fire, praise when it don't make sense. Sometimes you've got to stand down your giant, worship from the lion's den. Sometimes you've got to shout it from the mountain, louder in the valley, trusting that he's gonna get you there. Sometimes you've got to welcome the wonder, wait for the answer, worship with your hands in the air. I praise you anywhere. Praise, give him praise, give him praise in the highest praise. Give him praise, give him praise in the highest. He is worthy, yes, he is worthy of all of the praise. Sometimes you've got to praise in the prison, cry out to heaven, shout it till the doors swing wide. Sometimes you've got to stand on your shackles, brave in the battle, worship with your hands held high. And I praise you anywhere. Praise, give him praise, give him praise in the highest praise. Give him praise, give him praise in the highest. He is worthy, yes, he is worthy of all of the praise. Give him praise, give him praise in the highest praise. Give him praise, give him praise in the highest. He is worthy, yes, he is worthy of all of the praise. Let's sing out this bridge together. Sing faithful. Faithful all my life, blessings day and night, countless reasons why I'll praise you anywhere. Every promise kept, goodness every step, each and every breath, I'll praise you anywhere. Faithful all my life, blessings day and night, countless reasons why I'll praise you anywhere. Every promise kept, goodness every step, each and every breath. Praise, give him praise, give him praise in the highest praise. Give him praise, give him praise in the highest. He is worthy, yes, he is worthy of all of the praise. And I praise you anywhere, and I praise you anywhere. Praise, give him praise, give him praise in the highest praise. Give him praise, give him praise in the highest. the highest praise. Give him praise, give him praise in the highest. He is worthy, yes, he is worthy of all of the praise.
Well, good morning, friends. I hope you all had a wonderful Christmas filled with good memories and recognizable joy and maybe even a little too much dessert. Christmas time is definitely beautiful chaos, isn't it? I mean, it really is like part magical and then part stressful. It's part beautiful and then sometimes part messy. And it's in this week, this right after the height of Christmas and then before the turn of a new year, that sometimes we often feel this like strange in-between. Some of us, we may feel sad that Christmas is over, that we're gonna pack up all of the Christmas decorations and store them away for another 11 months. Some of us may feel relieved knowing that this season, we know it's not all that we expect it to be or all that we hype it up to be. And some of us, honestly, might just feel a little bit of both. Some of us might be looking forward to a new year, right? We might be looking forward to the chance to turn a new page in a new chapter, to leave 2023 behind and to hope that 2024 has something more or something different in store for us. Well, some of us might also feel nostalgic for 2023 and all that it was, and we feel grateful for what this year brought our way, and we're hopeful that the new year will be the same. And again, some of us may feel just a little bit of both. But either way, typically this week, we all feel a little exhausted. A little bit like maybe we need to take a deep breath. Maybe we're just looking around for some refreshment. In general, I don't drink very much. Well, hold on, it came out a little wrong. I just mean when it comes to liquid intake, especially water, I know that I do not drink as much as I should. I will often realize at like 2 p.m. that I have not even had one sip of water. At dinner, oftentimes I'll fill a giant glass of ice water only to realize it is untouched an hour later. John actually has started pouring me like little tiny baby glasses of water for dinner as a little nod to be like, you're not gonna drink anything. But then one day, it's all gonna catch up to me. It's like all of a sudden I can't get enough water. I almost have this unquenchable thirst. And I feel tired and I'm weary and I get headaches. And then I tell myself, if I would just drink enough every day, if I would just drink enough water, I wouldn't feel so depleted at the end of a week. And so it's not unfamiliar to me that if I'm honest, in certain seasons, I can tend to do the same when it comes to my soul. I can let myself get so depleted, right? Just not paying attention to my spiritual intake that one day I realize I am so thirsty and tired and weary. And so as we wrap up this year and we look forward to the next, I want to talk a little bit about the idea and this importance of refreshment, of letting ourselves be refreshed. The definition of refresh is to give new strength or energy to reinvigorate. And I have come to recognize how crucial refreshment is in my life. If anyone knows me, they know that I like to have a lot of plates spinning all at the same time. I like to do a lot of things at once. I'm inspired by new ideas and new thoughts and the possibility of what could be. I love having a lot of options, of doing a lot of things, wearing a lot of hats. I love being a part of a thriving ministry in this church and our team. It really does invigorate me. But I vividly remember a few years ago, I found myself in a place that I desperately needed some refreshment. I had realized that I had gotten a little lost somehow. I ended up somewhere that I didn't plan to be, and I had grown so very thirsty. Now, it wasn't something that I was really aware of in the moment until one day I came home, I cooked dinner, and I just began to cry, and then I cried all night, which if you know me, that is like not a normal mode of operation for me. But I think I just as I kind of leaned into it, I felt like my soul just felt so weary. It felt burdened. It felt tired. And while my physical surroundings and my circumstances, they all were pretty much the same, my spiritual surroundings just felt unfamiliar. I remember I felt soul thirsty. And I was surprised by my emotions. And so I took a couple of days to try to figure out where are these coming from? And as I prayed and invited God in and I allowed my soul to be still and allowed myself to be honest about what I was feeling, I began to articulate that I think I felt burdened by shoulds. As someone who probably has a bit of a stronghold of people pleasing, I realized that I was drinking from the fountain, from the well of shoulds. I was trying to quench this thirst in my soul that I was experiencing by drinking from the well of shoulds. And I had become tired of living under what I felt like was such a heavy burden of shoulds. The church should be this, the church should be that. Leaders should do this. Women should be blank. A good mom should. I should be there. I should do that. I should eat this and not that. I should go there and not here. I should. And I was so tired with all of the shoulds. The well that I was going to quench my thirst, it just kept coming up empty. And honestly, it was mainly my fault, because little by little, I had allowed myself to follow the signs and directions of those shoulds. I had believed the lie that if I followed that path, the path of catering to the shoulds, that would lead me to feel refreshed, right? I'd get that refreshment of accomplishment. I'd get the refreshment of being enough. I'd get the refreshment of being successful or the refreshment of being worthy. But I found that those actually are not refreshing at all. In fact, they made me even more depleted, even more thirsty. And what was annoying about all of this is that I know this, right? This isn't new information to me. I've read it, I've heard it, I've even lived by it before. So how did I end up here? As I processed and kind of thought through that, I realized it's because I hadn't made a plan not to. I hadn't taken time to identify my thirst and ask myself the question, where are you drinking from? I hadn't taken a look at where I wanted my soul to end up and then put a plan in place to make sure that the only well that I was drinking was something that was worth drinking out of. I just assumed that my desire to end up in a soul satisfying place would be enough. But I became distracted. I became probably a little lazy with that, and I began to follow all the wrong signs. It reminded me of the passage in John 4, when we read about Jesus meeting a woman at the well in Samaria. And after some conversation with her, Jesus tells the woman at the well, he says, "Everyone who drinks this water will be thirsty again. But whoever drinks the water I give them will never thirst. Indeed, the water I give them will become in them a spring of water welling up to eternal life." Now, I'm sure when she hears that, she's confused a little bit. And when you read the narrative, she's like, well, then tell me where that is, and I guess I'll drink from that well. But Jesus then answers with another confusing answer. He says, hey, go get your husband. And then she says, well, I don't have one. And he says, you're right. You've had 5, and now you're living with someone else. And I always think, there's always a little bit of a strange interaction, but I think what Jesus was trying to do here was proving a point. Obviously, he's not talking about raw water, and he's not trying to shame her. He has to show her that the well she is drinking out of in her life, he has to show her that she was drinking out of the well of affection. She was drinking out of the well of wanting to be wanted, of trying to be loved by someone else. Now, I imagine that if I would replace the woman that day, and I asked, well, where is this water so that I can drink from it? That he may have said, go bring me your list of all the shoulds. What? Right? I mean, imagine him saying to me, well, that's where you're trying to satisfy your thirst. Like you're trying to find your importance at this well that you are drinking from. And if you want to drink from that well, if you want to drink from my well, he says, then you will have to leave that one. And see, just like the woman at the well that Jesus encountered, I was drinking from all the wrong wells. And I was doing it without really even knowing it. And I finally recognized that I was so thirsty. Now, let me ask you, what wells have you been drinking from? Maybe like me, the well of shoulds. Maybe the well of can't. Maybe there's a well of despair or entitlement or pride. Maybe it's a well of self-protection. Maybe it's a well of insecurity and feeding your insecurities. Maybe it's a well of comfort. Maybe it's a well of an addiction, or maybe a well of indifference, the well of comparison, the well of pursuing only happiness. And here's the thing about all these wells. They look so enticing. They make us believe that if we drink from them enough, that we will be refreshed. but they keep us coming back. And not because they're satisfying, but because they're empty. And we think, okay, well, maybe if I try again, maybe then I'll find what I need. But God, in his graciousness, has given us a different well. Through Jesus, he has offered us a way to actually be refreshed, to actually quench our deep thirst, and to experience satisfaction. It has nothing to do with our circumstances or our bank account or our likes on social media. It has nothing to do with our kids or if we have a dream job or not. It has nothing to do with our health or our vacations or our houses or our spouses. But Jesus has offered us refreshment for our souls. He has offered us a new well to drink from and his presence to make it known. Sometimes, though, it can feel a little abstract, right? So out there, right? Sometimes I'm like, okay, so where's the well and how do I get there? And so in my short time of just processing and praying through this idea of refreshment and of quenching my thirst and our thirst by Jesus's living water, I am coming to learn and lean into 3 gifts of refreshment. The first is that we are gifted with physical refreshment. Now just look around the world. Almost everything we lay eyes on is a gift. And when I'm intentional about paying attention to what's around me, I allow myself to feel God's gift of refreshment. God made all of the greatest necessities of life very pleasurable, right? Breathing and eating and sleeping and exercising and relationships. I love in Revelation 4, it says, "You are worthy, O Lord our God, to receive glory and honor and power, for you created all things, and they exist because you created what you pleased." God created us to enjoy all of these things. He created the very nerves which feel good and the senses that which we feel pleasure. He gifted us to be able to see the things that are pleasing to our eyes, to taste things that are delicious, to hear beautiful music and sounds and laughter, right? To feel sensations of touch and to smell amazing fragrances. Pleasure and physical refreshment is God created for our good. But it's when we recognize and experience this gift of refreshment that we begin to recognize that he is the author of it. And I love that God has gifted us with physical refreshment. I love that there are tangible things in our world that bring us to the well of true life and that we get to see God's gift to us in it. But we do have to be intentional. So for me, I sat down and I just started making a list of the things that refresh me. And in a place of depletion, I made a plan to be intentional about those things. Right? It's not enough, though, just to do these things, but to claim them as refreshment, to claim them as gifts from our good God and our good Father. Right? I need to allow my soul to stop and to pause and to see, to soak in the refreshment that they offer, to acknowledge God in the pleasure, to receive them as gifts, right? As gifts of refreshment made from my loving God who made it possible anyway. But God did not stop there. Because our souls, while they certainly can find refreshment and pleasure in tangible things, there is more. This type of refreshment is a gift, but simply choosing these things to refresh us, it's all limited. Because when we recognize that when I stop at just a physical refreshment, I am missing out on so much more. So the second thing that we are gifted with is a spiritual refreshment. All right, there is something, if we're honest and if we stop and pay attention, there's something in our souls that needs to find a place of rest. I love that God invites us to be refreshed by him, by his presence. Right? Even when our worlds are swirling around us in chaos, he offers us his hand. And this is where God offers us a new well to drink from. He tells us to look at what we think will satisfy us, to ask us, hey, is it actually doing that? Or are the wells that we are drinking from, are they leaving us more depleted? But it is through his presence that we begin to see the emptiness of the wells we have somehow found ourselves at. And then it's when we fill our hearts and our minds with the truth of God that we allow ourselves, our innermost being, the things that fill our minds, to be stilled by his truth. When we allow space to be with God, to allow him to speak into our lives and to calm the chaos in our souls, to still the fear, to bring hope to our despair, and to bring healing to our hurts. This is when we experience his life. And this is not a natural response for us, right? We don't accidentally stumble into this. We have to make space. We have to make room. We have to practice listening. We have to practice going to this well and drinking from it. Because it's here at this well that he tells our thirsty souls, we may not be enough or feel like enough, but he is, so we don't need to be. That we are worthy of his love, that we are forgiven. We are fully forgiven. It doesn't matter if we can't. He can. It doesn't matter if we aren't. He is. He can sustain us. It is at his well that we don't have to strive. We don't have to prove. We are freed from comparison. We are inspired. We are given new perspectives. We are given freedom. We are given second chances and third chances and fourth chances. And it's when I drink from his well, like the well of life, the well of living water, that is when I become grateful. I become content. I see new perspectives. I can receive his grace. I can receive his peace. And ultimately, I'm satisfied. And then I wonder, why in the world did I ever wander to other wells in the first place? Because again, this is not necessarily new information. I know this, you might know this, but we forget to believe this. And we forget to make this our practice, to actually live in the reality that the living water he offers will be exactly what we need. Because knowing this truth and making it our practice are two different things, right? We can say with our mouth, like, I believe that. But then we find ourselves out looking for other wells. Like maybe this one will also satisfy me. This one will add to that satisfaction. But it's not true. I love what David writes in Psalm 16. Honestly, you could go open it and read the entire chapter, but just here's a few verses that kind of bring these two, this physical refreshment and this spiritual refreshment together. It says, Lord, you alone are my inheritance, my cup of blessing. You guard all that is mine. The land you have given me is a pleasant land. What a wonderful inheritance. I will bless the Lord who guides me. Even at night, my heart instructs me. I know the Lord is always with me. I will not be shaken, for he is right beside me. You will show me the way of life, granting me the joy of your presence and the pleasure of living with you forever. And so I have to make a plan to be refreshed physically, to see my world around me, and then to go and allow myself to be refreshed spiritually, to put myself in a place that I hear God, that I hear his truth, that I experience his life. And when we do this, when we drink from that well of truth, we allow ourselves to recognize that the other things that we have begun to chase after just don't matter. But unfortunately for us, and I wish it wasn't this way, but following Jesus doesn't always mean we get everything we want, right? You and I know that following Jesus and being refreshed by him doesn't mean that we get easy street or a life of riches or perfection or a life with no pain. But Jesus promises that if we let ourselves, even in the midst of all of that, we will be fulfilled if we go to his well, right? Our deepest core, who we are, regardless of our circumstances, we can live satisfied. Do we believe this? Do I live like this? Well, I want to. But unfortunately, wanting to is not enough, because what I want, just because I want it, doesn't mean I'm necessarily willing to put it into practice. So the question for you and me both today is, are we willing to put this promise to the test? Maybe this means making some changes and some choices to allow Jesus to fulfill us. Are we willing to stop going to the other wells, to identify them and say, I don't want to go there any longer? Am I willing to pay attention and replace all of this noise for God's truth? Am I willing to obey what God is asking me to do, or maybe give up some of the things that are robbing me or distracting me or tempting me to drink from their wells? If we believe that Jesus is enough, that he truly can satisfy, then our answer should be yes, right? And I think you probably, along with me, would say, I've tried other wells and they actually don't bring what I hope. So let's figure out what this means for us all of us individually, to lean into Jesus, to lean into his promises and his truths, not just to know them, but to believe them, and then to live them, and then to let them become our truths. And we will find spiritual refreshment. Now, I think it's easy to think, oh, great, we stop there, right? That's refreshment about quieting our souls. And once we figure that out, then we just settle in and stay right here. But I think that we are invited into something even more, because we are gifted. The last gift is that we are gifted in being used to refresh each other. At the end of the day, this doesn't end with us, right? We are not to find refreshment only to sit around and do nothing else about it. We are refreshed so that we can get in the ministry of refreshing others. I love in Proverbs, it's a great reminder. It says, the generous will prosper. Those who refresh others will themselves be refreshed. And this is what I love so much about the work of God. His eyes are on us, his people, and he refreshes us so that our eyes can see like his, that our eyes would then be on his people. I cannot tell you how many times that God has used others in my life to bring refreshment. Sometimes it's a prayer, sometimes it's a conversation, sometimes it's a stranger. Sometimes it comes in the form of just silliness, sometimes in the form of a challenge, and sometimes it's just in the form of being known. But I'm so thankful that God uses us all to refresh each other. Over and over and over in the New Testament letters, we see that God uses people to refresh the spirit of others. And so now as I reflected on this, I began to see where I had taken a wrong turn with all of my list of shoulds and going to the well of shoulds. Because, and I know and believe this part so much, right? I believe that we have experienced the fruit of this, right? Both on the giving end and on the receiving end. But the problem was I started here. I started at the place of mustering up all this energy and focus to refresh others, which again is a worthy thing. It's something that we absolutely are called to do as followers of Jesus. But this is a great place to end. It's not a great place to start, because this is where I found myself in the land of shoulds. I was viewing this gift, this calling and invitation to refresh others and to serve and to be a good mom and to be a good leader, all of those things as a starting point, but not as an outpouring of finding refreshment with God. And the thirstier I became, the more convinced I was that I needed to do more and give more and be more and all the mores and all the shoulds. And I'm so grateful for the thirst. I just went to the wrong place, right? Instead of going to Jesus to refresh me and then to let that spill over, I went to my own courage and my own strength and my own actions. So my spiritual thirst, it is a gift that it comes and it says, hey, I beckon you, come and drink from the right well. And when I do that, when I drink from the well of Jesus and his satisfaction, it is good for me and it is good for others. Jesus tells his followers and his listeners in John 7, he says, let anyone who is thirsty come to me and drink. Whoever believes in me, as scripture has said, rivers of living water will flow from within them. The original Greek phrase here translates as that God's living water will flow from his innermost being, or from the very depths of us. Jesus is saying, come to me. I will quench your thirst. I will be the satisfaction you are looking for. And then from that life you find in me, right from the deepest parts of you, you will then overflow with love and bring my life to others. Our lives are meant to be an overflow. God's grace just spilling out over the top of all of us, right? It's not meant to be scraping from the bottom of the barrel. But once our souls are refreshed, it doesn't mean that we ignore people or our families or the church or ministry or we don't serve others, right? So for me, instead of all of the shoulds, I got to change those into opportunities and into invitations. The output of what we do, how we invest our time, none of that might change. Like I might have done all of the same things. It's just where it came from was a different source. We refresh each other not because we should, but because we can't help it. Jesus' life pours out of us and it spills over to those around us. It's not our job, it's our privilege. It's not our responsibility, it's the byproduct of a life with God. We don't become depleted because our satisfaction is in the source of He who satisfies. And when we see the fruit of God that God produces in us, when we see that we are being a refreshment to others, it brings a rich refreshment even more back to us. We are invited to be refreshed, to be satisfied in Jesus. He came to offer us what we could never offer ourselves. And when we take Him up on it, we are given the beauty of refreshing others. So let's not walk through this life weary and tired and thirsty, right? Sticking our cup up to wells that we know will never offer what we need, and then look around and wonder how we got there. Let's be people, men and women, that pay attention. And when we are thirsty, let's go to the well that we know and promises to offer us true life. The well of Jesus that offers us truth and grace and peace and deep refreshment. So as we end this year today, I want to give us time to allow ourselves to be refreshed and to take in this last song as a prayer. The words remind us of the simple pursuit of going after Jesus and going after Him alone, to fill up our souls from His well of life and not from anything else. So let this next song serve as a reminder of where we find our true refreshment from.
God, take us back to the place we began. The simple pursuit of nothing but you. The innocence of a heart in your hands. God, take us back. Oh, God, take us back to an unswerving faith in the power of your name. A heart beating for your kingdom to reign. A church that is known for your presence again. God, take us back. Nothing and no one comes close to you. Nothing could ever come close. Nothing and no one, it's you and you only. Nothing could ever come close. Keep our hearts real and keep your grace close. You're bringing us back. You're bringing us home to an unswerving faith in the power of your name. A heart beating for your kingdom to reign. A church that is known for your presence again. God, take us back. Let's sing that out. Nothing and no one comes close to you. Nothing could ever come close. Nothing and no one, it's you and you only. Nothing and never come close. Nothing and no one comes close to you. Nothing could ever come close. There's nothing and no one. It's you and you only. Nothing could ever come close.
your kingdom to reign. A church that is known for your presence again. And God, take us back. Nothing and no one comes close to you. Nothing can ever come close. Nothing and no one, it's you and you only. Nothing could ever come close. And nothing and no one comes close to you. There is nothing could ever come closer. Nothing and no one, it's you and you only. Nothing could ever come close. Nothing and no one comes close to you. Nothing could ever come close. Nothing and no one, it's you and you only. Nothing could ever come close. There is nothing, there is nothing, Lord. Oh, nothing. Let's sing that chorus one more time. Nothing and no one comes close to you. Nothing could ever come close. Nothing and no one, it's you and you only. Nothing could ever come close.
Well, thanks so much for joining us this morning. I pray that this morning, or whenever you're listening to this, really is a true refreshment for your soul, that you would be reminded as we kick off this new year that God and his promises and the offer of Jesus is the true well that we should get our life from. We can't wait to see you next Sunday as we kick off a brand new series. Have a great weekend.